You are guaranteed to have heard about this case. In December 2024, an insurance CEO is shot dead in the middle of New York City. The perpetrator initially manages to flee. A few days later, this man was arrested here, Luigi Mangione. It is currently assumed that he is the murderer of United Healthcare boss Brian Thompson. The whole thing may not sound that exciting at first. A young man shoots a wealthy entrepreneur, flees, and is caught. But in this case, a lot is very different. There are factors at play that seem equally strange and fascinating to the rest of the world. And then, of course, there are the numerous conspiracy theories that have gone viral since the murder of Brian Thompson. But what really happened on December 4th? And why is Luigi Mangione not a stone-cold killer to many Americans, but a kind of national hero? Before we get started, it's important to mention that we can only go on the current state of knowledge. The investigations are still ongoing at the time of recording. So far, however, it is assumed that everything went roughly as I am about to tell you. It is suspected that Luigi Mangione arrived in New York City on November 24, 2024. He was recorded on camera at the Port Authority bus terminal. He got off the bus with other people, but seems to have been traveling alone. The bus came from Atlanta, but made 6 or 7 stops. It is not known exactly which stop Luigi got on at. Luigi is 26 years old and comes from a good family. His family owns several properties and companies in Maryland. Luigi himself went to a private school and then went on to do a master's in computer science at a renowned university. He is believed to have last lived in Hawaii. Luigi seems to lead the comfortable but fairly normal life of a young man who has many privileges due to his family's wealth. But something has changed in Luigi in recent years, and this change has an explosive effect when he travels to New York at the end of November 2024. After arriving in the city, Luigi first takes a taxi to the Hilton Hotel, exactly to the place where he has planned something terrible in a few days. He stays there for about 30 minutes and looks around. Then he takes another cab to his accommodation, a hostel on Amsterdam Avenue. He shares the room with 2 other men, neither of whom he knows. Luigi is supposed to wear a respirator mask at all times. The men don't interact much with each other. Luigi spends a few days in the city. On December 4th, 2024, Luigi leaves his hostel early. It is assumed that he will grab an e-bike at around 5:30 a.m. and ride through the city. There's a Starbucks near the Hilton Hotel where he buys something for breakfast, a bottle of water and a few granola bars. A meeting of the company United Healthcare is scheduled to take place at the Hilton Hotel this morning. CEO Brian Thompson and the company's most important investors are invited. But this meeting will no longer take place. At 6:44 a.m., 3 shots ring out in front of the Hilton Hotel. Today, we know who the alleged shooter is supposed to be: Luigi Mangione, and he hits 50-year-old Brian Thompson in the back at close range. The entire incident was recorded and released in full. You can see the shooter walking a few meters behind Brian. When the first shot hits him in the back, Brian stumbles and tries to take cover behind a pillar. He turns briefly to his murderer, who fires 2 more shots at him. A passerby, who is drinking his morning coffee in front of the hotel, is standing right next to it. The CEO collapses on the street right in front of the hotel. The shooter approaches the seriously injured man with slow steps. Then he crosses the street on the left and accelerates. Police later reconstructed the events, concluding that Luigi took an e-bike and fled in the direction of Central Park. Some media reports state that his cell phone was found on a side street. Only 3 bullet casings were left at the scene. A word was written on each of them: deny, delay, and depose. Meanwhile, it is suspected that it is a reference to a book with a very similar title, namely Delay, Deny, Depose. The book criticizes insurance companies, and Brian Thompson works in precisely this industry. He is admitted to hospital but is pronounced dead shortly after 7. He leaves behind a wife and 2 sons. The circumstantial evidence quickly makes it clear that the CEO was the target of a targeted murder. On the video, you can see how the shooter specifically shoots at Brian Thompson. Although a witness is standing right next to him, the perpetrator doesn't even look at the third person and focuses entirely on Thompson. In addition, another piece of evidence was found not far from Central Park: the alleged murderer's backpack. It matches the backpack seen on the surveillance camera footage exactly. The police found play money in the backpack. But not just any money. It was from the board game Monopoly. I'm sure you've all played it. The basic aim of Monopoly is to get rich by making others poor. And if you break it down very roughly, it is of course profitable for an insurance company like United Healthcare when people with little money are doing badly. But we'll talk about that in more detail in a moment. Shortly after Brian Thompson's murder, a reward of $60,000 is offered to anyone who can help identify the killer. However, it is not only a large-scale search for Luigi that begins, but also an unprecedented wave of solidarity. While the police are searching all of New York for the alleged murderer, he's celebrated on the internet. While the police are feverishly searching for Luigi, the world doesn't know his name yet, of course. However, everyone knows what he looks like. The police have released images from the surveillance camera and launched a major manhunt. However, many Americans are not particularly interested in helping to hunt down the culprit. On the contrary, a look-alike contest is being held in New York City instead. In such contests, people look for the most authentic doppelgangers of celebrities. Thanks to social media, these contests have become quite popular lately. What started with a Timothée Chalamet lookalike contest continued with similar contests for Paul Mescal, Zendaya, or Jeremy Allen White. And in December 2024, people will gather for a CEO killer lookalike contest. This alone shows that hardly anyone seems to be afraid or worried about the free-roaming perpetrator. Instead, he is celebrated like a celebrity. Shortly after the case hit the press, the comment sections on social media were abuzz. Users congratulated him on the act, thanked him, or prophylactically offered themselves up as alibis. The USA is politically divided, especially after the election in November. But there is one thing a surprising number of people agree on, regardless of whether they are Democrats or Republicans. The US healthcare system is a disaster. And many people blame people like United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson for this. This explains to a certain extent the lack of sympathy following his assassination. But in this case, the whole thing takes on extreme proportions. The then unknown murderer is celebrated as a kind of Robin Hood. Many defend the murderer and share their own stories of bad experiences with the healthcare system. As you probably know, healthcare in the US is a bit different than in Europe, for example. That is why insurance companies like United Healthcare have been criticized for a long time and are also the subject of some regulatory investigations. Brian Thompson has been CEO of United Healthcare since 2021. The company is part of the United Health Group, which made more than $281 billion in revenue in 2023 alone. Under Thompson's leadership, United Healthcare was able to increase its revenues from $12 billion to $16 billion. However, all this was at the expense of the insured. There has also been a very specific scandal at United Healthcare recently. Under the leadership of Brian Thompson, the company introduced an AI system to process insurance claims. This AI automatically sends rejections to applicants without examining the individual cases. And what's particularly shocking is that the company is said to have been aware that this AI has a failure rate of 90%. An error rate like that, and the use of this AI in general, means that people may not be able to get medical treatment despite having insurance. Or they may be left with the horrendous costs. This also applies to treatments that are medically necessary or prescribed. A common operation such as a new hip joint can quickly cost $40,000 in the United States. And even if you have health insurance, for example, with United Healthcare, that doesn't mean that the full $40,000 will be covered. By way of comparison, a hip replacement costs around 5,000 euros in Germany. and the costs are usually covered in full by the insurance. If you are a U.S. citizen and suddenly have to come up with $10,000 for necessary treatment, it can drive you into economic ruin as a private individual. Meanwhile, United Healthcare CEO Thompson takes home millions in bonuses every year. Anger at the healthcare system in the U.S. is correspondingly huge, regardless of which political faction one feels they belong to. Often, the contracts that U.S. citizens conclude with insurers such as United Healthcare are totally convoluted and nested. So much so that the insurance apparatus behind it is actually almost impossible to understand. So even if U.S. citizens have health insurance, it is complicated to get subsidies for treatment costs, even in the case of serious illnesses or emergencies. And that at least partially explains the great popularity that Luigi Mangione receives for his alleged act. Initially, of course, still unknown, but the hype took on a whole new dimension when Luigi Mangione was arrested. On the morning of December 9th, police were called to a McDonald's branch. More specifically, to Altoona in the state of Pennsylvania. An employee is quite certain that he has just recognized the CEO killer in a customer. The man bought hash browns and is now sitting at a table for two in the fast food restaurant. Just like the man in the mugshots, he's wearing a respirator. Police respond and arrest Luigi Mangione on the scene. That same evening, he's officially named a murder suspect in the Brian Thompson case. When he's arrested, he's in possession of a fake driver's license, a firearm made with a 3D printer, and a written document. The document is referred to in the media as a manifesto against the U.S. healthcare system. At the time of this recording, several versions of this document are circulating online. It is currently unclear whether one of them is genuine. According to the police, it is said to include the following: "I apologize for any inconvenience and trauma, but it had to be done." When Luigi Mangione was arrested for the murder of Brian Thompson, he had no criminal record. As mentioned at the beginning, he came from a good family and led an unremarkable life, at least until recently. As early as mid-November 2024, Luigi's mother reported him missing because she had not been able to reach him for months. Luigi is said to have last lived in Hawaii. According to friends at the time, he wanted to recover from back surgery there. The surgery is said to have taken place in the summer of 2023, and to have not only physically but also mentally affected Luigi. Due to his chronic back pain, he is restricted in his daily activities, and recently, he is said to have become more and more isolated. After the crime, Luigi's Goodreads account was found. This is a platform where you can log the books you have recently seen and read reviews of them. Luigi has read a number of books about dealing with chronic pain, and also the manifesto of Ted Kaczynski, who you may know as the Unabomber. He is responsible for a series of bomb attacks that he saw as a criticism of modern society and technology. In his review of the manifesto, Luigi writes that the Unabomber was rightfully imprisoned. However, he also writes, "Violence is not the answer" is a statement that comes from cowards and predators. And, when all other forms of communication fail, violence is necessary to survive. You may not like his methods, but when you look at things from his perspective, it's not terrorism, but war and revolution. And if Luigi Mangione really is the murderer of the insurance CEO, then perhaps he also sees his own act as an act of revolution. It is not yet clear why he chose Brian Thompson as his victim. In any case, Luigi himself was not insured with United Healthcare. It was probably more about hatred of the system itself. United Health is the 5th largest company in the US in terms of revenue. It was therefore clear that the murder of the CEO in the street would lead to a great stir and discussion on the subject of health insurance. But the magnitude of the case was something the perpetrator could hardly have foreseen. While Luigi is currently in custody, the murder of Brian Thompson is still being discussed. And numerous theories are emerging, spreading primarily via TikTok and Reddit. But could Luigi Mangione really have orchestrated the insurance CEO's murder according to a perfect plan? And is he perhaps even deliberately playing a game with the justice system in the truest sense of the word? One of the theories revolves around the number 286. I'll explain in a moment why. Sure, these are all wild theories, and admittedly, there's probably a lot of nonsense in them. But the speculations are always exciting. So let's just take a look at the whole thing. As I said, we are now leaving official statements and investigation results and instead delving into the comment sections of Reddit and other social channels. Normally, we at Insolito avoid this as much as possible. But since the case is such a pop cultural phenomenon, it's almost unavoidable here. As you may have noticed, Luigi's X profile was found relatively quickly. On the profile, Luigi has a Pokémon as an account banner. That Pokémon is Breloom. On the Pokédex, Breloom has the number 286. Fun fact, the Pokémon skills include poison sharing of all things. However, a few internet detectives believe there is an even deeper meaning behind this image on Luigi's profile. The number 286 is a code used in the American healthcare system. It stands for the refusal of treatment after a certain period of time. In addition, there are 286 posts on Luigi's X-rated profile. And the McDonald's in Altoona is about 286 miles from the Hilton Hotel in New York City, where Luigi is said to have shot Brian Thompson. I told you that Monopoly money was found in Luigi's backpack. What's really exciting is that one of the 4 train stations in Monopoly is the Pennsylvania Railroad. And now I'll give you 3 guesses as to where its real-life equivalent is located. That's right, in the town of Altoona, which, as you may recall, is the same town where Luigi Mangione was arrested at McDonald's. And McDonald's, in turn, keeps doing this Monopoly promotion, where you can collect Monopoly stickers on the products and then exchange them for prizes. Some people think that Luigi has meticulously planned everything, even his own arrest at McDonald's. So a few people believe that Luigi is playing Monopoly in real life, so to speak. In the board game, you can also end up in prison. Shortly after Luigi's arrest, there was also a fuss about a YouTube channel and a video. Users found a channel called Luigi Mangone. The layout matches Luigi's X profile. A countdown video entitled "The Truth" is uploaded to the channel. The video says, "By the time you read this, I'll already be arrested." When the clock in the clip reaches 0, the screen goes black and the word "soon" appears in the lower right corner. So does the date December 11th, followed by the sentence, "Everything is planned. Be patient. For now, bye." After the video appeared, the comment section of every social media site exploded. There are all kinds of theories about this mysterious countdown and what it could mean. However, it is more than questionable whether the video was really made by Luigi Mangione at all. A spokeswoman for YouTube told the Daily Mail that the channel and the video were removed for impersonating another person. Accordingly, the name of the channel and other details were changed after Luigi Mangione was remanded in custody, and his name was made public. So at least some of the wind was taken out of the sails of this theory. However, that doesn't change the fact that Luigi Mangione is celebrated online for his crime. Others doubt that Luigi is even guilty. Some say that the people in the mugshots and Luigi don't look alike at all. Others say that the police are trying to frame Luigi for Brian Thompson's murder so that they have a scapegoat. Luigi Mangione has already indicated through his lawyer that he will plead not guilty. This topic is far from over in the US, especially not as long as there are no massive changes to the healthcare system. And that is currently not in sight at all. This is probably why the police are also afraid that there could be copycats. And that's the end of today's video. I would be interested to hear your opinion on the subject, and especially on how to deal with it on social media. I don't think I've ever seen a real person's murder discussed and celebrated in such a way before. Of course, the whole health insurance issue provides a context that is probably only understandable to Americans. And certainly the company United Health, under the leadership of Brian Thompson, has done things that are more than reprehensible. But the extent of the support surprised me. What do you think about the glorification of Luigi Mangione? Do you understand it and maybe see him as a kind of revolutionary figure too? Or is he just a stone-cold criminal to you? Or maybe something in between? I'm looking forward to reading from you. If you found the topic interesting, I would really appreciate a like. That helps the channel a lot and shows me which topics are well received by you.